All right, welcome back. So today let's look at how to create a section. And for that, let's use the ground floor because this is the roof plan that we have just completed, but we just want to create a section through the building. Well, the first step is to identify a better place to draw a section from. So we could choose like a bedroom to show how these spaces are usable, but it's advisable that we have a section through the staircase. So we can have more than one sections, but if we have a chance to draw only one section, for example, for the sake of this study, we are just going to create only one section, and that will be through the staircase. And we will do that by picking a section tool, which is going to be found within the viewport. You can see here section, and we want to draw that. So I'm going to choose a section through the first leg of the stair because we want to cut through this first leg and be able to see the second leg in elevation. Okay, so let's do that by drawing that. So hold down shift to make sure that it's vertical. Yes, vertical. And once you have drawn that, you draw where this thing is facing. Okay, this is great. So now we open the section by right clicking and say open with current view settings. All right, so now we should get ourselves, by default, we have ourselves something like so, which is not really bad because we can see a lot of stuff happening here. We can see the stairs with slabs and stuff like that. But this section is lacking a lot of things. So for this video, we're going to try and do a few of them, and we'll complete the next in the next session. Okay, so let's begin by drawing the custom profile of this wall here. So in order to be able to see, I think we may need to remove true line weight. You can see that true line weight is enabled, so I can right click and remove true line weight so that we can be able to see it in its raw form. And let's draw something here, something simple, an outline of what this is going to look like. So for example, we need to have this brickwork continue all the way down by, like, I don't know, 1.6 below the ground, and then all the way to here, and together with its finish as well. Okay, so I'm going to sketch out what I would expect this to look like. So perhaps we have the finish here, and then we Ctrl+Shift+D to create a copy here, and then at the end here we have something like a footing. Okay, let's create a footing of like 600, twice the size, and 3 times the wall thickness, which is 600, and it will be like 200 deep as well. So we have this footing somewhere here. All right, so that is what that footing should look like. So let's copy this and go and create a custom profile that's going to look like this. Okay, and this is because with the normal wall tool we can't be able to draw this, so we want to create this kind of thing, which is you draw a 2D section and then extrude it across by going to options, element attributes, and then we have something here called profile manager. So you bring up the profile manager and create a new profile here on this plus icon. So this profile, we're gonna call it footing for our wall footing, and we say okay, and right here is where we're going to paste whatever we have. But before we paste it in here, we want to paste it in the correct sense. Okay, so let me go back here and make sure that what I'm copying is gonna be correctly placed, because the orientation matters in that profile. Okay, so this footing, I want to draw it on this street level rather than the ground floor because I don't want to have too many things on the ground floor. And then we can see the street level is somewhere here, so I'm going to draw a line that's going to help me identify where that line wall should be drawn. So I hold down shift and select also the rest of these things except for that grid, which has been selected automatically, so I will deselect that. So that line is going to help me. Control C to copy, and then I will paste that in the footings here. So Control V to paste, and let's see, it has pasted it in here. So first of all, I need it to align with the X mark here. That's what is important. And secondly, well, after we have pasted it in, we want to also move it such that the center of the wall is right there, because when we're drawing it, we're going to use that center to draw it. So this is what it's going to look like on that street level. So let's delete the guidance line. We do not need it anymore. So we get a fill, so here, and we will need a brick. So by default we have a brick here, so hold down spacebar and click inside here, and you can see that we have ourselves this wall of 150mm thick. And then we have a finish here, which is going to be plaster, so lime sand. Okay, so space click to place it in here in this space. Okay, and then also we will space click in this area to have that finish as well. And then finally we need concrete at the base for the foundation. Okay, so hold down spacebar and click in there. You can see that that has been placed in there, and make sure to have it as a wall and then hit save. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. All right, so with that, what do we do with it? Of course, we go to that street level and draw it. So let's double click on the street level, and then in here we want to draw that wall, but in this area, especially along this side, and in order to see it, let's enable the above stories by choose above current story, such that we are able to see what's happening above. So for the footing, we need a footing along this space, and a footing along there, and another footing along somewhere here. Everywhere we have a wall, especially interacting with this section, that's where we are interested in. Technically, you could draw this shape, this footing across the entire building, because that's what happens in real life. But for the sake of, representation and saving time, let's just do it along where the section will cut through. Okay, all right, so let's go in the wall tool. We pick a custom profile. So you want to make sure that structure is selected, and then you choose here custom, and then you change the custom to be footing, and this should show if you had saved it as a wall. Okay, so we have footing there, and then we want to have it across this space. Okay, right in the middle we have ourselves that it has been drawn. We will check it out in the section. Okay, and then we also need to identify, and I think since we have a partition wall in this area, we also need to carry that load to the ground, so we will have it here as well. So I will draw just that, and then finally we have this area here where we have the entrance, so it will also require us to have that in this area. And I think it's proper that I move it out of the way such that I place it much better. I place it in the right place. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, and check it out in the section, and it should be placed in the very exact areas. Okay, this is really cool. Okay, so now let's get rid of these lines. We do not need them anymore. So with the polyline selected, Ctrl A to select, and then we delete that. Okay, so we have ourselves the first part, which is the custom profile. But then as well, we need beams in this area, because if you look at this roof, right now we just used a simple material, which is timber roof, and it doesn't make much sense. So it's better to have it as a detailed thing, and in order to do that, let's use the way we use this wall to be composite. Let's choose a composite which is already in Archicad. So in the structure, let's go to composite, and then you can see by default that is what is created, but we don't want something generic. We just want something like roof tiled, and this option should look a little bit better. So you can see that this one has a little bit of detail, because now the essence of the section is to expose those such details. Okay, so we have like some tiling area, then we have waterproofing, stuff like that. And then as well, what's important is that we need to have rafters in this area. So let's try and create some rafters, and for that we can use the beam tool. So in order to do those beams, I will draw them here so you can see what I'm trying to achieve. Let's make them like 300 millimeters deep. So I'm imagining a rafter which is 150 millimeters wide, and perhaps 300 or 250. Let's use 250, yes, millimeters deep. And I say Control U to multiply so you can see what it will look like. By 1 meter, we will have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rafters, but let me fit them all together. So I will use another technique. I will use increment. Okay, how many copies? Let's actually distribute them. Let's distribute those 5 copies from in there. So here in multiply, I went there by Control U, remember, and then we say okay, and then we can multiply by taking the final one here. So we have now 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rafters. Okay, these 2 are beams, and then we have a rafter there. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like, just to support whatever is happening on the roof. Okay, so let's use an actual beam to make it, because this is cool and stuff. You can do it, you can put like a fill, stuff like that, but you will have issues in case you make any changes in the floor plan. It will not be editable. So let's do some work by going to design, pick a beam and make those beams. Okay, within the model. Okay, so how deep is that beam? It's gonna be 250 is what we decided. And then how wide is it? 150 millimeters wide. And what material is it going to be? Probably timber roof. Okay, and then we go down. And how high is it from the ground? We could measure from here and say this is 3.3. Anyway, let's just use 3 because we will, position it correctly here in the when it is done. Okay, but we also need to specify the angle, which is the same as the angle of the roof, and if I remember correctly, it was 7 degrees. Okay, so that beam is going to be 7 degrees angle. Okay, right, so let's just draw one of them in here on the terrace, I guess. Okay, not the roof plan but the terrace. Okay, so like we said before, that roof is on top of this thing, or this janitor's room and stair. Okay, and perhaps it would start from somewhere here and rise all the way to the end here. But like I told you, we do not actually need all this detail, for example, in this room. So let's take it only in this area, such that it just crosses this section. Okay, because that's what we're interested in, to show the detail in the section. We do not want to overwhelm floor plans with that kind of information. Okay, so with this now, I can see that it's still very low because we are able to see it here. You can see right now it's at 300, and you know what, let's go in section and move it up to the correct space. Okay, so I can see it should be somewhere below, which is here. You can see that, and then we need to just move the correct point, which is this one here, and put it somewhere here in this section, and you should see yourself something really good. And this, since it is not touching this wall, it is exposing that this wall is shorter than it should be. So perhaps we should also increase the height of this wall, the one which separates the stair from the janitor's room. So let's increase this height such that it you know, it crosses that roof, okay? And then we trim it on the roof, okay? So let's have it, and you can see that right now this looks way better. And let's have that wall selected and the roof selected, and right click and say connect, and then trim elements to roof, okay? So trimming elements to roof, that means that it will use this roof to trim that wall such that it doesn't, you know, pop through and make something that is not sensible, okay? And of course you need to make sure that you check in 3D such that you don't have any issues with that wall. And you can see the model still looks clean and proper, but if we go in here, we should be able to see a beam there, which is what we have been trying to achieve all along, okay? So let's go here in section and multiply these beams, because these are part of the details that need to be taken care of, okay? So we have a beam here which rests on top of this wall, and then as well, in order to put the rest of these, we might as well just multiply by how much. Let's see, this is 930, so I'm going to Control U to multiply and spread at 930, and we have ourselves from here all the way to that, you know, end, and we should have ourselves a beam, okay? So that's already, you know, communicating something really important. And let's also get rid of those polylines. We do not need them, okay? So secondly, next we have this floor, and you can see that by default we have these things which do not represent correctly, and that's because we have a material which is generic environment, but we want to change this to soil, okay? Just such that we have the correct representation of soil, okay? Which is looking good. And then let's increase how high this is. So let's increase the height of this, okay, to somewhere, just so that it covers those, you know, elements that we have created. Great. But then we have an issue here, and we can just fix that here on the floor plan, I guess on the ground floor, because we have that in that area. So if I select this mesh, yeah, the mesh we have been working on, you can see that it doesn't quite reach this end of this wall, okay, correctly. So this should fix it, okay? So let's go back here in section, and this wall should move to this mesh should move and cover that area, just like that, which is looking way better. And that's really cool. But you can see that this is on top of our concrete, which is not proper. So we might as well select these two, right click, and display order, send them to back, send to back, and that should leave our concrete on top, which is pretty cool. And as well, before we head over to the next part to fix more things, let's just put some stones under here, because remember, you compact this maram in real life and then you add some stones for the before you can add this oversight concrete, okay? So let's create a copy of this, Ctrl Shift D, and take it down. And you know what, I think it's gonna be the slab, once we make a copy of it, is going to be created on the ground floor. So it is wise that we just make a copy, yeah, and then this copy, we take it, we instruct it to go to the street level, okay? So let's move its home story from the ground floor to the street level, such that it won't, you know, create multiple slabs on the ground, and it will be hard to select, okay? So now with it here, now we can move it up to where we intend to have, you know, the stonework, because you know the stonework is just below the oversight concrete. So that stonework, we select it and make sure that it's not concrete but it's stonework. Okay, so do we have stonework? Yeah, we have something here called gravel. Not accurate, but it does the job of doing the representation, and I like this. So you can see we have ourselves some stones, and then you can have these elements of oversight concrete. If you wanted to be even more detailed, you can add in a layer of membrane, roofing waterproof membrane. Let's, for example, move this down by like I don't know, 25 millimeters, and then you can, you know, create a copy of this, move it up, and also make it smaller to fit within that 25, something like that. And then in here you can say that this is waterproof membrane, which is membrane here, waterproof membrane, and it does something like that. But that's enough detail for now. But I hope that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's continue with this section in the next part.